Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to On Your Mental. This is the podcast where we share candid, open, and sometimes vulnerable conversations between men, talking about things that are on our minds. Now, today's not a conversation. Today is just me, and I'm going to be sharing 5 different things that have helped me in my mental health, especially in the last couple of years. And hopefully these are some things that you can start incorporating into your own life to improve your mental health. Anyways, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. That way you know when new content comes out. And if you're listening to this episode, make sure that you're following on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts for the exact same reason. But for now, enjoy the episode. All right, now let me start off by saying that I am not a professional. I am not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I don't know anything officially about mental health. I just know what's worked for me. I know these things have benefited me, and I know that there are studies that probably say these things work. So I figured I might as well share some of them. So here goes. Number 1, get active. Do something in your life where you can start to be active. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to get crazy jacked. That doesn't mean you have to be in ridiculous shape. I literally just mean get active in the simplest way possible. It could be just going for a walk. It could be as simple as stretching. You don't have to do a lot, but just having some physical activity in your life provides so many benefits outside of just the physical part. It releases chemicals in your brain that tell you you're doing something good, and it's very rewarding. And the more that you do it, the more you want to continue to do it. I know from my own experience, there's a bit of a hurdle to get into that habit where you start actually doing that stuff. For me, I never was a huge gym goer. I started working out in high school, but I was very on and off. We had this thing called Power Fit in our school in grade 11 and 12, where it was an advanced PE. So regular PE was just jokes, right? But Power Fit, you started learning about weight training and stuff like that. And I wasn't in great shape, but it at least gave me some foundational understanding of how that kind of thing works. So that for me is what I do for my activity. Is I often go to the gym, but sometimes I would go for a run, especially over this pandemic. There were periods of time where I would go and I would just go for a run because gyms were closed. You couldn't do anything else. And so that worked for me. But having activity in your life, for sure, major mental health benefits, 100% would recommend. And if you're able to, do it. Number 2, I think this is a very important thing. I'm lucky with the situation I have, but number 2 would be when you have something on your mind, share it with people. Talk to somebody else. I mean, that's part of why I do this podcast, why I have the On Your Mental podcast, is to have conversations where I'm getting things that are on my mind out and encouraging the people who I have come on as guests to get things that are on their minds out. I recognize that not everybody has a social circle that they can share with. And so if you don't have that, if you have the ability to access counseling in any way, do that for sure too, because it gives you some way to put what you're thinking out there. Because when you keep it all inside, that's when it starts to build up and it starts to become something that seems maybe unmanageable, something that seems like maybe it's overwhelming, and it can really weigh on you, and it can become more of a burden. Than when you release it, you have more control over it. You can sort of see it, you can flesh it out, and you can expand on it, and it doesn't become this daunting thing in your life anymore. For me, I started counseling, even though I have my friends that I'm normally open with. I was feeling really frustrated with some things in my professional life, and so I reached out to counseling, who thankfully through my work, I'm able to access some counseling, and that's been huge for me because I don't want to vent to my friends about what's going on with my job, right? That's not their space, that's not what they're there for. I mean, they could be, but I don't want to do that to them. So I've reached out to counseling, and that's been huge for me because it just gave me a place where once every couple of weeks I call and I get to just vent. So if you have access to do that, do that. If you don't think you need counseling, but maybe you're keeping more things to yourself, try sharing to somebody that you trust, someone who you can be open with. Do that. And that has been huge for my own mental health, is just being able to share. Now, number 3 is something that's been huge for me recently, because not everything can be shared to someone, especially when we're in a pandemic, when we don't have access to see people all the time. It's not as easy to do that, at least in a setting where you would want to talk about what you're feeling and what's on your mind. So for me, a habit that I picked up was journaling. Journaling has been huge. Journaling lets me get a thought out right away if I don't have somewhere to share it. So as much as I'm an advocate for speaking with people, that's not always an option. And the exact same way that speaking gets an idea out of your head and gets a thought moving and just processing and lets you get control over it, journaling does the exact same thing. And all you need is a pen and paper, right? Like, it's so straightforward. It's simple. Should be that just about anybody can do that. I used to think that journaling was kind of like whack. Like, why would you do that? I thought of it as like having a diary. And as a kid, like growing up, like I had this image of masculinity where it was like, oh, only girls keep diaries. Shut up. It helps so much. It's become a go-to thing for me. Like, when I have an idea, if I have an idea about, let's say, the podcast, if there's something that I want to do in the future, I write it down in my journal, because otherwise it sits in my head. I start to lose track of it. It ends up spiraling and I maybe forget an idea. So even for something that's like positive, like an idea, journaling helps just sort of maintain that and keep it and lets you build on an idea. It helps you get creative. Of course, there's the other side of it, where if there's something that is negative in your life, something that's really weighing on you emotionally, journaling does, as I said, the exact same thing that speaking to someone can do. It gets that thought out of your head and it puts it in a place where you can manage it. At least this is how I've experienced it. This is how I've benefited from using journaling. And what I feel when I do it is that I'm no longer out of control of a thought. I'm literally writing it out. My thought's there. Cool. It's out of my head. And now I get to stare at it and build on it. I don't have to just think, oh, there's this thing. I had shared earlier, for example, that I went through a period last year where I was really frustrated with my work, and journaling alongside with counseling helped me manage that frustration and build some resilience around it. It let me take thoughts I was having and try and sort of really flesh out, okay, what is it that's causing this frustration for me? Rather than just feeling frustrated, I started just writing. And the key, and I learned about journaling from my counselor actually, the key for me has been, when you start writing, don't stop. Like, don't just write down a thing, put your pen down and come back to it. Like, just sit there, go. Whatever's in your head, write it out, because that's the only way to flush it out. So that's my tip to you. If you end up taking journaling into your life and incorporating that somehow, just go. Like, just write whatever's there. And now number 4, what did I do with my hands there? And now number 4, meditation. I don't really, meditation comes in different forms. As a kid, I always thought it was like meditation meant sitting there going, om. That's not it. Meditation can be so many different things. Like I find cleaning meditative to me, because it's kind of just like it clears my head quite a bit. But what I do sometimes, and this is the one that I would recommend to people, is sort of alongside getting active. Meditation outside is amazing. Like, amazing. I would definitely recommend that to someone if you could do that too. Just spend some time, like, put your phone away, leave it inside, maybe drive to a park or something like that, or that's if you have a car. If you're at home and you live close to like a green space, or just outside, it doesn't have to be green. Leave your phone, leave your technology somewhere so that isn't bogging on you. You know, like, you're not getting notifications. You're not trying to check your phone all the time. Just be there and just let your head go. You know, it clears your mental space quite a bit. Hiking is an amazing sort of form of meditation that I used to do a bit more. A couple summers ago, I think I was a bit more active with my hikes. When I was trying to like lose weight at the time, I think that was what I was doing. But yeah, for real, like, meditation in any form, huge for mental health. It's like giving it's like stretching your brain, you know. You've been working your brain for however long, and then now you get to give it a rest. You know, you get to press pause when it's not just sleep. You know, sleep is like the only other rest that your brain gets, but meditation really, really helps. And it's definitely helped me. So I would highly, highly encourage meditation too as well. And last, number 5 would be a social media cleanse. I've touched on this a little bit in previous episodes of the podcast. I've touched on this a little bit now with the idea of putting your phone away when you're meditating. A social media cleanse has helped me on a couple of occasions now. I think I've done it twice. And what I've done is I would take 1 to 2 weeks, which isn't a long time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying like do this for like months at a time, because I recognize that social media is a big part of people's lives who use it, at least. And it can be hard to step away because it's addictive, right? Like, you go on there and it's easy to just scroll and scroll and scroll. But social media itself, not great for your mental health, because you're exposed to a lot of amazing things, and it can become very, very easy to sink yourself into a place where you're like, oh shit, like my life's not that cool. That looks way better than what I'm doing right now. So taking a break once in a while, especially when you find it just eating up more and more of your time, because that's more time where you're in that kind of mind state. You know what I mean? Taking like 1 to 2 weeks off from it huge, and it's helped me so much before because it meant that I just got a break, and you can become more like in tune with things that matter in your life, things that are actually real. You know what I mean? You can sink so many hours into being on social media, but the people that you're seeing there, they're not in your life. You know, your friends are in your life. Like if you just stop for a minute and you just focus on talking to people who matter or speaking to your coworkers, maybe you're more present at work then. But what a social media cleanse has done for me in the past is done exactly that. Like I've felt more connected to things that mattered. When you're on social media, it's almost like you feel like your presence there is somehow connecting you with the world. Like if you miss out on something on social media, you're not going to be able to join in on the conversation when people are talking about whatever was there. Like right now there's this thing with Lil Nas X. He had he did some music video that's kind of cool. All of his music is pretty cool. He did this music video, and there was a collab with a Nike shoe that wasn't Nike endorsed, and like Nike's blah blah blah. And so I heard somebody talking about that the other day, and it's like, oh, I know what they're talking about because I was on social media and I saw it too. And it makes you feel like you're a part of the conversation. Who cares? Who cares? Once in a while, who cares? Just step out of it. Give yourself a cleanse. Give yourself some time without social media. And I promise it would do you wonders. Yeah, just stopping that feed that you get of dopamine telling you like, yo, like stay here. Like keep this app open. Stopping that once in a while. I highly recommend doing that. That would be huge for your mental health. So those are 5 things that I've done to improve my mental health. Again, I'm not saying that this is like going to for sure work for you. I'm just saying that this all has worked for me before. These sort of habits that you can get into and start bringing into your life. I mean, a social media cleanse isn't a habit, but like do it once in a while. But these other things, journaling, talking to somebody, being active, practicing some kind of meditation, that stuff, the more you incorporate it into your life, the better you're going to feel. I promise in my non-clinical recommendation, I promise. Yeah, try some of these and see how you feel. If you end up doing any of this stuff and you feel like it's actually made a difference to you, come back, leave a comment and tell me that it actually worked and that it helps you out. Anyways, thank you all for checking out the video, episode, whatever. I don't even know what to call it at this point, to be honest, because it's not a typical episode for me, and that's cool. I actually really enjoy the idea of making like a shorter thing like this, and I hope that y'all like it too. I hope that you all find it a bit easier to sort of tune into and check out the whole thing. Again, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and that way you know when new stuff is coming out. And I know I did just say 5 things, but as a 6th thing before you go, just drink some water, y'all. Then you'll be fine. Brain will be good. Peace.